Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special episode of Decoding the WSL, the podcast dedicated to the stats and facts in the WSL and Sam Biccarino, the WSL2. We're going to be doing a half-season review of the WSL2, going into all things the second flight in England. And of course, we have Sam Biccarino here with me.
Yeah, wouldn't miss it. Even though we can't fit in our normal sort of evening slot at the moment because it's Christmas time and we can't really, we don't always have the time. So we've made the effort on a Saturday morning. I'm not a morning person, but anything for the WSL2.
Anything, honestly. What a league it is. And we're going to be breaking it down, me and Sam, today. So before we get stuck in, because we are going to get stuck in, but there was some news in the WSL this week that West Ham have parted company with Rhian Skinner. She's been in charge since 2023, but one win in the last 11 league games was the limit for West Ham. Sam, can you talk to me about what you think about this decision?
Yeah, I think it's one that I've maybe seen it coming for a while, and I think with the general level of investment that West Ham put into their club, they never sort of should expect to be anywhere sort of top half of the table. They should probably expect to be almost getting relegated, if not getting relegated each season. And in recent years, Rhian Skinner's done a fantastic job of working with the means that she has. They have a few like superstar players in sort of people like Viva Sayi and Katrina Gorry, but their general squad, I think, isn't that good compared to the other WSL teams. And yeah, I think she's done a fantastic job for a few years. And this last 12 months or so, they have bought a few extra players. They've bought in players like Shakira Martinez, like Kinga Shemek and people like that. So they've put a bit, probably not enough in my opinion, but they've put a bit more money into it. They've put a bit more support. But it's not. I still don't think it's enough, but I think the board think it's enough to be above 11th in the table and more than one win from their opening games. You have to think that game against Liverpool, playing against 10 players for the vast majority of it as well and still not managing to win probably is the last straw. I think they are probably slightly underperforming given the squad they've got. In which case I kind of get what the board mean when they say that they're not meeting expectations, and that's why Rhian Skinner's been sort of relieved of her duties. But I don't think they're going to do that much better with another manager. I don't see them getting another manager in that's going to get them out of a relegation scrap. Not relegation, but relegation playoff scrap this season. So yeah, I kind of get what they mean, that it's not going as well as you would expect. You would expect to have a few more points on the board, but at the same time, I don't think there's necessarily anyone better or someone that's going to do a better job than Rhian Skinner. And if there is, you're taking a bit of a risk on whether it's going to work or not.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with what you've just said there, Sam. I think they've certainly underperformed this season to the level that they are able to aspire to. But I think Rhian Skinner's done a really good job there, and you could see at the end of last season just how impressive they have the capability to be under her management. And I think the fixtures, West Ham, obviously it's Rhian Skinner's responsibility to make them better away from home, but the crux of a good season last season was their home form. And the first three games being the only three games they lost at home last season, it puts you on such a bad path. And obviously you can win those games. You can do better in those games. There's not foregone conclusion, but I just feel like it was very unlucky for them to have that. And the board looking at Rhian Skinner, thinking Rhian Skinner needs to change. I just feel, there's only one club in the WSL and WSL2 since Rhian Skinner was hired in 2023 that haven't played at their main stadium, the women's team, and that is West Ham United. And I just feel like that sends a message of sorts, I think. And I think that Rhian Skinner is probably, if you're going through all the difficulties and problems with that club, Rhian Skinner isn't at the top of that list. But I think she is the person who is going to be accountable. So I think
it's kind of one that she can be the scapegoat as well. That,
yeah,
pardon me, that when if you there's going to be, it's not going to be one specific person, but if it's a mix of the board and the investment, and it's a mix of the manager and it's a mix of the players,
mm,
one of those is a lot easier to change than the others,
yeah,
and that's the
yeah,
manager, because it's only one person, and ultimately it's not their decision. Like, if you're going to change something on the
mm,
board, it's kind of the board's decision to get rid of someone on the board, or whoever it is that's doing the right kind of thing. They've got a
yeah,
horrible run coming up as well. I was just having a look at that. They've got Man City in the cup tomorrow as we record, and then the first game back after Christmas is Chelsea away, followed by Newcastle away in the League Cup. So they're sorry, in the FA Cup. So they've not got a nice start after. So they're perhaps thinking, we've got a few games here that a couple of games that, against good WSL teams that we're probably not going to win anyway. Then we've got a FA Cup game that maybe, West Ham aren't going to win the FA Cup. Let's not worry about that too much. But then they've got their next game is Leicester away. So maybe they're thinking, this is the time
mm,
a new manager can come in, get a few games under their belt, even if they're not good results. And then that Leicester game is going to be really important.
yeah, yeah. I saw a few West Ham fans online quite frustrated that if they were going to do this, why didn't they do that? Do it before the international break. And I do see some kind of like sense in that. Is there anyone who's like immediately coming to your mind about who you think would do a good job if West Ham were to, or when West Ham are looking for their new head coach?
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not going to be an if at this point, is it?
Yeah.
Um, I posed this question in our group chat when the news first came out, and I think it might have been Izzy that mentioned that Jonas Eidevall might be available for a job. And
He's just won the
uh,
Sevens Cup. He's huge in San Diego now.
yeah, I don't think he's going to be coming over to West Ham anytime soon. I don't know is the honest answer. I don't know who. I think, going back to what I said earlier, I don't know who would be a definitely better bet than getting Rianne Skinner in. I think
Mm,
she's shown over a few years that she's really good at making a team better than the sum of its parts, which is exactly what West Ham want, because they're not putting enough money, they're not putting enough investment. Like you said, they're not putting their team at the sort of main stadium, which I know is a bit more complicated for West Ham because they don't own their stadium, they don't own the London Stadium.
mm,
But still, it's still not a big place to go in Chigwell.
yeah,
Um, and yeah, she's been so great at that. She's not been great at this season, let's be honest. But I think you'd be better off trying to get her to turn it around rather than getting a new manager in. But maybe there's other stuff going behind the scenes we don't know. But yeah,
yeah,
as to who that
yeah,
next manager coming in would be, I genuinely don't have a good answer.
yeah. No, I agree. I wouldn't if I was the West Ham board, I wouldn't have let her go. I remember actually reading Mary Earps's autobiography, and Rianne Skinner kind of features in that at one point when Mary Earps is quite young at Leicester. She's playing in one of the youth teams, but in like, there's the top youth team and the kind of the development youth teams, and it's Rianne Skinner who comes over and plucks her from the second or third team and puts her in the top team. And I always thought I mean, obviously right now hindsight is 2020, but it's that she is one of those people in English women's football that we have a lot to be grateful for. I think, and also just to say on a personal level as well, working with her or interviewing her, she's been nothing but lovely as well. So I really wish her all the best moving forward too. But shall we get on to why we're here in the first place then, Sam? Which is the WSL2. Um, of course, England is the only country in Europe with two professional leagues, and we're going to talk about the other one now in the WSL2. Firstly, I wanted to talk a little bit more broadly about the WSL2 as a whole and the progress that is made of late. Obviously, the WSL2 is now kind of run by WSL Football as opposed to the FA as it was not too long ago. We had that huge rebrand last year. And obviously, I know the rebrand came with its positives and negatives. I think the rebrand's done okay so far, to be honest. And there's been a lot of progress made in recent times, from big things like the WSL2 becoming involved in the PFA, the Professional Footballers Association, with minimum wage for players, safeguarding officers introduced. You've got massive companies like Nike and Apple providing equipment and products to each team in the WSL2, a huge commercial deal with British Gas, all games are available to watch on YouTube. All these things are really, really massive for the league, a league that's kind of been overlooked in large parts. And, most of the WSL2 teams have played games at their main stadium this term. And, you're going from those big things to maybe more smaller, trivial things like WSL2 having its own Panini sticker album. I know that sounds silly, but that actually is quite a big thing, and it wasn't too long ago. I mean, it was only last season that you had teams like Blackburn, Reading not investing the money required. Both weren't relegated on the pitch. They were not willing to put the funds behind their side and were relegated because of it. And, I think there's so much going on in the WSL2 at this level of football, like moving on with the kind of trying to keep pace with the growth of women's football at large. And I think the WSL are doing a really good job. WSL football are doing a really good job managing the WSL2. But I'm really interested for your take here, Sam. Like in a macro sense, how are you feeling about the WSL2 under WSL football? And are you happy with the direction that it's going?
Yeah, I think it's definitely positive at the moment. It's definitely doing the right things. I think, like you say, the only thing that was maybe a little bit of a blip was the rebound. Pardon me. I personally don't hate it. I don't think it's like amazing, but I think it's pretty good. And I think it's always one of those things that when something changes, everyone hates it to start with, and then you warm to it. It's a bit like the new Champions League format. I really wasn't a fan when it first came in, but do you know what? We've had it for a few seasons in the men's. Obviously, we've had it in the women's game now too. I quite like it. It's pretty good.
Yeah,
Just takes a little
yeah,
bit of time to warm up to it. Same thing with the rebrand. Looking at the logo all the time, it's actually fine. It actually all works together. It's done very well from someone that works in marketing. I can tell that it's been done very well. You told me beforehand that you were going to ask me a question around this, and I made a few notes of things that I think have been generally things that they've done. They're all pretty positive things, and you basically mentioned all of them. I've got the album. I've got having one umbrella brand over every
Sorry,
game.
Sam.
They're putting all the games on YouTube, stuff like that. I think the
Yeah.
thing with Apple is really cool as well, and I
Mm,
think it was on Counterpress when they had Nikki Dissett on. She was saying that
mm,
it was actually they were sort of had this sort of discussion with Apple, and it was Apple that actually wanted to do all of WSL2 as well. They
oh
wanted to
wow.
make it
Yeah.
equal for everyone, and
Fantastic.
not just like the top four teams or something. They actually
Yeah.
wanted to make it an equal level playing field, which is good to see as well. That it's not just
Mm,
sort of the WSL football trying to pull people along, but actually people are pushing in the same direction as well. I think there's there's still some way to go, but I think the level in quality has really, like the actual football, because as much as there's stuff around the football that means a lot, and the attendances and where they play, and the facilities they have and stuff, the actual football on the pitch at the end of the day is probably the most important bit. And I think the quality
mm,
of the football has really increased over the last few
yeah.
years. I
Sure.
was well, you'll figure out why when we get some of the later questions, viewer. But I was watching back some of like highlights from previous games and stuff to prep for this pod, and I was thinking that the level of football you see, I think it's still not as good as the WSL. It's not. There's still a bit of a gulf between the two. But I think if you looked at the WSL maybe 10, 15 years ago, those teams, even near the top, probably are on par with the teams of the WSL2 now, because you've had that
Mm,
investment in grassroots, because you've had that investment in just making the league professional, because you've had that investment in, some of the bigger clubs, and the players leave the bigger clubs and go down to the smaller clubs,
mm,
but they've been through those academies and they are better players than the players that were coming through 10, 15 years ago. If we look at the teams near the top, the Charltons, the Birmingham Cities, Newcastles, people like that, I think those teams would probably give a 2010 Arsenal team a really good game. And I think
mm.
that shows where the women's game's going. And I think that's a really positive thing as well. So all the things that are going well off the pitch, and I think are all going the right direction. There's obviously been a big kind of like public push to help this sort of thing as well. But the actual football that's going on as well, so the work that are going on with the facilities and the coaches and the young players, and maturing into adult players, I think has been going really well, and the quality is only going to keep going up.
Yeah, yeah, you've got a lot of talent, especially young talent in the WSL2 who are doing really well, and it's a brilliant proving ground for them to give them, as well as being its own entity. Is Yeah, I completely agree. The progress that has been made in that league is fantastic, and I think it is only going to continue as well, especially when you know you start getting more established sides, I suppose. I mean, you could even have Liverpool in the WSL2 next year again, and yeah, well, hopefully they'll invest a little bit more than they are right now, but we'll see. We'll see. Um, okay, so I think let's get on to the actual. You mentioned the football on the pitch. On the actual football, which team has impressed you the most this term so far?
I think there's one obvious answer, isn't there? It's Charlton. They've been so defensively solid this season. We know they scored quite a lot of goals last season, and it was that was kind of more their thing. They had some of the top scorers in the league, but they've only scored 13 goals this season, third lowest in the league. Even Sunderland, that were in 11th, have scored more goals than them. But they've only conceded 4 goals this season, and they were in 4 different games. They haven't conceded 2 goals in a game at all this season, having played 10 so far. Like I said, they haven't scored many goals. There's only Jodie Hutton and Katie Bradley that have scored 2 or more goals for them this season, so they're spreading the goals around as well. But it's just the fact that they are unbeaten. They've not lost any of their first 10 games. 24 points is a 5-point gap at the top of the league. They are, at the moment, sailing away with it, doing really well and not looking like slowing down. I think quite a few people, myself included, thought it would be between probably Birmingham. Newcastle have invested really well. Palace, having just come down. Forest have seemed to invest really well as well. They are the teams that I thought at the start of the season would probably be up there. I didn't necessarily think Charlton would keep this up. But yeah, wrong I was. They've been fantastic. I won't sort of ruin one of my future answers that you're going to, of a question you're going to ask me, but I think, defensively, they have been fantastic this season. And that is the reason they are 5 points clear. That's the reason they're unbeaten. It's the reason they're my sort of team that's impressed me most.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there, Sam. I also had Charlton down, but I did have a couple of, because I suspected you might say Charlton as well.
Is that why you put the Charlton shirt on?
Yeah, exactly.
No bias on this podcast.
Yeah, no. I'm not even a Charlton fan. I just don't live that far from the stadium, and I really like this shirt. So thank you, Charlton. But yeah, there was a couple. I think Sheffield United, I thought I would probably bet my house on them being rock bottom, but they really impressed me. The fact that they're not, I mean, they're doing really well at the moment. But the team I wanted to talk about is Nottingham Forest. And I know they invested really well in the summer, but, you've seen teams get promoted like Portsmouth last term, like Ipswich and Watford the year before. They've struggled. They've really struggled. Watford obviously went straight back down. Portsmouth kind of staged this great escape, and Ipswich are looking in a bit of trouble, 4 points off safety at the moment. And obviously Newcastle came up and maybe did a similar thing to Nottingham Forest, invested, but really struggled last season as well. And I just think Forest have been so impressive. I think Carly Davis has done a really good job there. And I've been able to speak to a few Nottingham Forest players this season, and all of them talk about Carly Davis in such glowing terms, like about why they wanted her, or why they wanted to come, the ones who signed more recently, like Kirsty Smith and Chantal Boyer-Lorca, why they wanted to come to Nottingham Forest to play under her. And I think just it's really smart to get players like Chantal Boyer-Lorca and Georgia Browham, promoted last season with London City Lionesses. It just gives them a little bit more edge and understanding, and what, like when heads go down, that they've been there and done that before. And I think Amy Claypole is an especially exciting signing as well. A player who's played in the Champions League, has been, was up for Player of the Season for Durham last year in the WSL2. And yeah, I think also Jessie Stapleton on loan from West Ham and Chloe Mustaki at the back have been really good. I think Mustaki especially has taken up that role and kind of the left centre back or left side of her back three, and she's really excelling there. She's great at picking out those long balls over the top, and yeah, she's a fantastic player, one I have a lot of time for. And yeah, I've been impressed with Nottingham Forest, I think, as well. Okay, well, with it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? We like talking about teams that we've been impressed by, but we also have to talk about a team that we haven't been impressed by. So which team has disappointed you the most so far this season, Sam?
Yeah, I think in terms of being disappointed, I think Ipswich would be the sensible one because they're bottom, but at the same time, they've just come up from National League, and they weren't necessarily like, they haven't invested to the same extent that some of the other teams have. So it's probably unsurprising that they're there. So therefore, I wasn't so disappointed in them. But one I am disappointed in a bit is Sunderland, who are just above them. They finished. I think they were about mid-table last year. They're obviously only 4 points off the drop at the moment, and in WSL2 it is a drop. It's not like the WSL where it's a playoff. And we've seen a bit of a trend over the last 5 to 10 years where other than the teams that basically either have a Premier League team attached or Michelle Kang do really well, and the other teams sort of start to drop off a bit. And there are teams that have bucked that trend. So, like Durham have held their place despite the fact that they're pretty much a women's club. Bristol City and Charlton, even though their men's teams aren't in the Premier League, they're still doing quite well. They're still investing enough to do well. But with Sunderland, obviously their men's team has moved into the Premier League this season, and obviously with that comes a lot of money to the club. And yeah, I think we've seen with other teams that they end up, if their men's team has more money, they end up almost giving it to the women's team because they see it as a really important part of the club, and commercially it helps grow the club as well. So whether you're looking at the money or whether you're looking at the sort of football aspect, it's a positive either way, and Sunderland just don't seem to have done that. They've got 9 points from 10 games, sitting 11th, like I said, and they did have a really good start. They won 4-0 away at Sheffield United on the opening day, and then got draws against Birmingham and Southampton, as well as a win against Durham. But since then, they've only got 1 point, and yeah, it's just a bit. They've got some good players in that mix, but I don't think they've got enough, and I think it's more of a disappointing not from the players they've got, but disappointing that the club haven't done more. I'd like to see them invest a little bit in January just to make sure they don't go down, because the men's team certainly aren't going down. And if they're going to maintain their status, you'd like to see, or you'd like to think that they're then going to help the women's team keep their status as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think I completely agree with you, Sam. Sunderland were the team that I had down as well. I think it's really interesting. I was thinking about your point that you made earlier with Charlton and how Sunderland has scored more goals. Like, goal scoring is not Sunderland's problem right now. They've only failed to score in one game, and that was against Charlton. But yeah, like you said, only 1 point. I think their last point was on October 12th. So that's a long time to be going without a point. And, they've got the top scorer in the league in Emily Scarr. And you just think about the great history that Sunderland have in the women's game, the players they produce: Beth Mead, Lucy Bronze, Jill Scott, Demi Stokes, Steph Houghton, Horton, these unbelievable players. And it would be a great shame to see Sunderland go into the National League, because, I think every kind of women's football fan does have a little bit of a soft spot for them, because they've always been thereabouts. And I think they made a really good loan signing, Kira Barry from Manchester United. She's really been really impressive. And Charlotte Patterson wrote a great article about her impact on the team on the Roker Report. So go check that out if you can. And we were saying just before we start the podcast, they've obviously got Ipswich, don't they, this weekend? We're recording this before the final round of WSL2 fixtures, just in case you're screaming down the microphone or at the fact that we haven't talked about the fact they beat Ipswich or lost Ipswich. But so that's going to be a really interesting one. We'll watch that result with eagerness. I think their head coach, Melanie Ray, is she's been in the coaching setup at Sunderland since 2015. She's been head coach since 2017. It'd be really good to see that loyalty rewarded with some more funds, like you said. And obviously it's one of my favourite stats, or one of my favourite kind of facts about the WSL2, that she's Alan Shearer's cousin, which always makes me laugh.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. But yeah, I think so. We're in agreement on that one about Sunderland, really, and hopefully they can turn it around. So next one I'm going to come to you with is the signing of the season. So summer transfer, best signing of the season. Sam, who have you got?
Yeah, I had a little bit of a scour through. I had sort of basically when you posed this question, there was a name that sprung to mind, and I thought, no, I'm probably missing some players, ones that I've sort of forgotten that actually transferred this season. So I had a little look through. No, but I stayed with the same name, which was Vitruki Sari. She's signed for
Yeah.
Birmingham. Obviously, comes with a wealth of experience, not just playing internationally for Greece, but has played in in the top flight for a number of years as well, going back to Birmingham now. She's played all 10 of their games, started 9 of them, and got 4 goals and an assist in that time. Which, if we think back to, I remember, like, for example, talking about her a lot when she was at Brighton, and she was a really good player, but didn't really score many goals. I think she's got 1 or 2 sort of in a season, whereas she's already on 4 goals and an assist. And we're, not even, well, by the time you listen to this podcast, she'll be halfway through the season. Maybe she's got more. But yeah, I think she's been quite important for Birmingham and helping them sort of get to where they need to be. They've obviously invested really well. Patricia Sarri is one of those that they've invested well in. When I say well, I don't just mean they've plugged loads of money into it. I think they've signed smartly. They're not just signing loads of players at the top of their game. They're signing some youngsters, but they're also signing people like Sarri who have the experience to help those youngsters grow. So yeah, really good from them. And I think she's been fantastic so far.
Yeah, I think that's a great shout. I remember watching her play for Greece against Ireland recently, and she just, out of nowhere, she just scores for them. Like, one of those players who just is always going to be a threat. And I think she's the top rated player on SofaScore as well this season in the WSL2, which, says a lot about those underlying statistics you were mentioning there, Sam. So I've gone with a goalkeeper for this one, and it's Durham's goalkeeper, Kat Shepherd. I think she's been really, really good. She has the most saves per 90 minutes this season, most saves in general in 47, and the second highest save percentage rate in the league of 77.8%, which is exceptionally impressive. I know that Durham are down in 9th, but only Charlton have conceded less goals than them, even though they've conceded 12. Shows how good Charlton's defence has been, like you were saying. But yeah, I think she's been brilliant, and I think she's got a really interesting. She's had a really interesting career. She started off at University of New Hampshire, and they obviously just love her there. Loved her there. They still. I had the chance to speak to her before the start of the season, and really down to earth person, and was talking about how she's still in touch with the people at University of New Hampshire, and obviously after that she went to Abuguera in Portugal, and then on to Sporting Lisbon, and in Champions League matchday squads against Real Madrid, and then you're off to Durham, which is quite a funny progression of. I don't think many players will follow that career path, but I remember her saying that her coach at University of New Hampshire was saying how it was like kind of meant to be, because the University of New Hampshire's women's team is nicknamed the Wildcats, and obviously that's the exact same nickname that Durham have. So it's a nice little bit of symmetry there. But she has done really, really well and really helped Durham, stay out of trouble. And I think she's a goalkeeper with a big future, I hope. Yeah, so that's another. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And so we'll move on to let's get the big one out of the way. Player of the season, Sam.
Yeah, player of the season. I kind of had a 2-player shortlist for this, but so I'm going to ask you to go first, and I'm basically going to, in case you pick one of them, I'm going to pick the other.
Okay, thank you, Sam. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I had some special mentions, but I will leave them until after you've given yours, just in case I've given anything away. But I didn't have much. I knew exactly who this was going to be for a long way out. Sophie Whitehouse, the Charlton goalkeeper, is my player of the season so far. As you mentioned, only 4 goals conceded, 6 clean sheets. The next highest has 4. The next after that is 2. So, she's done amazingly well. And, 85.7 save percentage is massive. That is a huge amount of, and it's not, you think like, oh, team at the top of the table, how busy is she? But she's been making extraordinary saves. Like there was a particularly brilliant save she made against Birmingham it was just, she's been absolutely fantastic. And, she's a player that's really grown this year. She's now made her debut for Ireland, and she just exudes a kind of aura of confidence at the back. And she won save of the season last year, and I wouldn't put it past her winning it again in the WSL2. And she's another one with a really, really interesting life and career. She grew up in East Africa before moving to the United States and going to college there. And played on boys teams in East Africa when she was younger. And then when she moved to America, she started obviously playing girls teams. And obviously she was part of the World Cup squad for Ireland. And I think I remember asking her she was talking about, before the start of the season, she was talking about how the sports psychologists at Charlton, they did a little session of, they were going on a pre-season tour in Spain, and they did a session like, you can only bring 2 things in your bag with you to Spain. What you bring in, like, as a way of bringing everyone together and understanding each other. And she said her World Cup, the medal she got from going to the World Cup with Ireland, and the other one was her tattoo, which is in her sister's handwriting of the coordinates where her family house is. I just thought that was really, really lovely, and shows a kind of another person who's very down to earth. And I remember her saying that it was her sister that got her into football, and now her sister doesn't play football anymore, and she's the best goalkeeper in the WSL2, which is always quite a funny thing. But she's been a huge part of why Charlton have been so successful this season. So for me, it had to be Sophie Whitehouse. Sam, first out of our misery, who have you gone for?
Well, she was one of them. You'll be pleased to hear, because like you say, 6 clean sheets in 10 games. The only other stat I had is her 86% save percentage is better than any of the WSL keepers this season. Obviously, it's not quite the same level of striker, but just to give you some sort of comparison, I think Hannah Hampton's top of the WSL in about 84. So so she was very much there. But I thought you might go for her, so that's why I let you go.
Thank you, Sam. You know me too well.
My other one is Bristol City's Emily Syme. I think she's been one that they often do a little roundup at the end of the women's football show, and she gets mentioned probably more than some of the WSL players on that show, I swear, because she's always scoring or assisting. She's got 4 goals and 4 assists and started all 11 of Bristol City's games. Obviously, they've played the extra games. They played Palace in midweek. But I think she's been in the goals. She's been helping them going forward. But I had a look at some of the other stats, and she's got pretty good defensive numbers as well for in that sort of midfield position. So as good as Sophie Whitehouse has been, for a bit of variety, I'm going to go for Emily Syme.
No, I'm glad. She was also on my short list. I think she's one of those players that if you like stats, there's no avoiding Emily Syme. She's everywhere, isn't she? I think she has the most key passes in the division as well of any player this term. So I'm with you on that one. I think a worthy opponent for Sophie Whitehouse. I think Beth Heppel's another one I would like to mention. Really good player for Durham too, who's got some fantastic stats and joint top goal scorer with Emily Scarr at the moment as well. There's so many great players who've had great seasons so far, but I think it's interesting when you have a team like Charlton at the top, because it always seems to be like a promoted team has a player that's, like it was Izzy Goodwin last year for London City, who was just scoring goal after goal. And then the year before it was Elise Hughes for Crystal Palace, goal after goal. So it's interesting that Charlton don't really have that dynamic. So you're looking for different kind of players who are going to, I feel like we haven't had a defensively solid WSL2 champion or like top potential champion before. So it's interesting, very interesting. But hopefully, Bristol City have been really impressive, haven't they, with, Charlotte Healy, former Manchester United assistant manager, in charge there. And Emily Syme's a big part of that as well. So on to another fun one. Goal of the season, Sam. Who has your goal of the season so far?
So again, this is the main reason I went looking through the highlights and things. I very helpfully found that WSL2 on the YouTube channel do a goal of the month. So watched a few of them.
I may have done the same thing.
My decision is Lexi Lloyd-Smith for Bristol City away at Southampton. So this was about a month and a half ago, I think. Pardon me. I think it was the start of November. She sort of gets played in the ball in at right wing, sort of receives it just on the edge of the box, takes it a few yards in, and then rockets it. I think it might hit the bar on the way in.
Yeah.
But yeah, keeper sort of tries to save it, does her best, but is rooted. But it's sort of that really like nice aesthetic of it. Just about clips the bar, I think, but then it almost like rolls around the net, and it's not just the shot. It's not just the sort of touch to get it out of her feet and doing the right thing technically. It also just looks really nice as it goes in as well.
Yeah.
So it sort of ticks all the boxes for me. That's my goal of the season so far.
Yeah. It's a bit like those, those guys in the motorcycles in the big wheel where they go around they drive around the.
That's exactly it.
That goal kind of reminded me of, yeah. It's also just, I mean, I'm sorry, Southampton fans, but it's just against your former club putting in a goal like that. It's just, it only ever happens against your former club, doesn't it? I know a few Southampton fans who would have been groaning as that one went in, I'm sure, but she's a big talent, Lexi Lloyd-Smith. But yeah, I think that's a great shout. I had another young English talent for my goal of the season so far. I had Katie Watson's solo run also against Southampton, where she kind of sprints in from the halfway line all the way through, and then two Southampton defenders she taps it just in between these two Southampton defenders. They come together, and she runs round and puts it in the back of the net. I just thought it was almost like cartoonish, like how it happened, and I really enjoyed that goal. It's a fantastic goal, and probably a special mention as well to Chantel Boyer-Lorca's, one from the halfway line. I think it was against Portsmouth. We love a goal like that. God, it was hard to pick though, wasn't it, Sam? There's so many good ones. Even on that little kind of those few months of goals, there's so many good ones there. And there's going to be loads more. there's always goals in the Championship. So, young player of the season, Sam. Who are you going for?
Well, Southampton fans, as much as we've both gone for a goal that was against you, I'm now going to give you a bit of credit because my young player of the season at the moment, I did have two on my list. I think the number one is going to be Jess Simpson. She's obviously on loan from Man United at Southampton. She's left back by trade, but she's not really playing like one. She's got 5 goal involvements already, 2 goals and 3 assists. Played in all 11 of their games and started 10 of them. She's been... so she hasn't really made much of a dent in the first team at Man United. And I think a lot of United fans were sort of, as much as they've got a very thin squad, now that their squad's getting a little bit bigger, they're sort of really wanting some of their young players to go out on loan and basically do exactly what Jess Simpson's doing. Go to a team in the league below, play all the time, start getting on the goal sheet, even if you're a left back, but show that you are a quality player and get those experience in so that you can go back in the future season. But for this season, Southampton, I think I've got a bit of a gem in Jess Simpson, and they'll be disappointed when she leaves at the end of it.
Yeah, agreed. She's been really, really good. She's her delivery into the box I've been so impressed by, and seems like she's really getting involved in the community in Southampton as well. Jamie Spanger at the halfway line, our good friend of the pod.
Friend of the pod.
Did a brilliant piece on Jess Simpson. So make sure to go read that one, check it out. I think that's she was also on my short list. I feel like I have a suspicion I might be about to say the other name that you were going to talk about. But Abby Larkin is my young player of the season. I fear I might be showing my bias, but I do also think she's been absolutely phenomenal. 4 goals, and and they've all just been unbelievable. And there's been, she just in midweek, she scored another winner for Crystal Palace, and that I'm sure we'll talk about it in a minute, but the goal against Southampton where she gets the ball back to goal, comes out and then hits it on the reverse in off the post, just out from outside the box, just a fantastic finish. And she's also had the second highest amount of successful dribbles with 43, and I just think she's such an exciting player, and she's also a player who's doing really well for Ireland at the moment and becoming. I remember when she made her World Cup debut and she was so young, and it's just great to see her kind of developing into the player that we all kind of knew that she could be when she was at Shelburne and when she was at Shamrock Rovers, and Glasgow City. So Abby Larkin would be my young player of the season so far. And obviously
she was on my shortlist as well. She was also one of those that was on my shortlist for the goal of the season so far.
Yes.
She scored banger. I can't remember which. I
That
can't.
was the
It
one
was
I was
also in the
talking about.
November one, I
Yeah,
think.
that was the one I
Um,
meant. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
My other player that I wanted to give a shout out to is Jessie Gale. She's also on
yes,
loan. She's at Portsmouth on loan from Arsenal. A mainly a striker, but sometimes plays on the wing. But she's made 10 appearances, so she's played in all 10 of Portsmouth's games. Only started 3 of them, but got 3 goals and assist. And those 3 goals actually came in 3 successive games. And the one after it, which was against West Ham, in the cup, she scored in 2. So yeah, she seems like a bright talent at Arsenal. I know she's been in sort of training with the squads for a while.
mm,
Now she's out on loan, and again, she's been out on loan a few times. And yeah, doing all the right things. I think she probably wants a bit more pitch time. She wants to get some starts.
yeah.
Especially considering Portsmouth aren't that high in the table. Maybe she can change that. But yeah, I just thought she deserved a shout out as well.
Nice one, Sam. Okay, so on to match of the season, Sam. What do you think?
Yeah, match of the season. There was only one for me that I think really stood out. Again, Southampton fans, you'll be pleased to see that you're getting a mention. Palace 4, Southampton 4. This one was right at the start of the season. I think it was game week 2. Both teams led twice in this game. Southampton went 1-0 up. Palace went 2-1 up. Southampton went 3-2 up. Palace went 4-3 up, and then it ended up 4-all. I think it was actually Veerden hit the bar late on as well, so it made it
Yes.
5-4. It was just a really good game. I watched the highlights back. To sort of the sort of games that I thought might be. I then watched the highlights again yesterday, just to sort of cement what my thought was. But yeah, no, this one was definitely it. The highlights, yeah, I think were only about 5 minutes long, but they probably could have been about 20.
Yeah, it's one of those I could watch the highlights of that game probably once a week for the rest of my life. It's so good, so entertaining. Yeah, obviously I agree with that, and I had that one down, but I had just call it a sneaky suspicion that you might say that. So I've also gone with a couple of other ones. I think we've been treated to a couple of really good derbies this year. I think South Coast derby, Portsmouth, Southampton, Portsmouth going 2-0 up and then losing 5-2. There you go, Southampton fans again. We're forgive us. And then I think Newcastle Sunderland was just at St James's Park is becoming a bit of a tradition in the league, and it's just fantastic to see. I think almost 20,000 were there this year, and a double from Emily Murphy, another player who's really impressed this season, to win it for Newcastle. So yeah, I think we've got a lot of really exciting derbies in the league in the WSL2, which is making it all the more exciting. And I think after the winter break, that's one of the first games back is Southampton versus Portsmouth. So whether Portsmouth can get a little bit of revenge, we'll see. So moving on to this is the big leagues now. We're really coming into the business end of things, Sam. Who is going to be a top 3 and who's going to just miss out? So I want them who's first, who's second, third, and give me 4th and 5th if you feel like you want to.
Yeah, this is really hard because you've got, well, I think Charlton first. I think I'm confident in saying that. I'm not, something will have to go quite wrong for them to give a 5-point lead halfway through the season. The second place is really hard because you've got, well, as we record, obviously we've still got 5 games still to play before Christmas that are all getting played tomorrow, but you've got Birmingham and Bristol both on 19 points, Newcastle, Palace and Forest all on 16. And obviously Bristol and Palace have played a game extra and the others in there. So everyone's within sort of a win of each other. And there's obviously only 2 promotion places, or automatic promotion places. If Charlton had taken one of them, that's only one more. And then the third place team plays the bottom place in the WSL for, I think, a game that's going to be really exciting. I've gone for Birmingham to finish second. I think they have, with the way they've recruited, they've got a real good sort of chunk of experience in there, as well as the youth. So I think they'll come through with that. And for the same kind of reason, I've gone for Newcastle in third. Obviously, they're not third at the moment, but I think they will go up to that position. Bristol City there at the moment, but I think Newcastle with the players they've got, people like, obviously they've got players like Jordan Nobbs in. I don't think you can get players like Jordan Nobbs in and still finish outside the top 3 of the WSL2. That would be almost impressive to do that. But yeah, then so the teams that will miss out, Bristol, Palace and Forest, I'd probably say Palace and actually I'm going to go Forest 4th, Palace 5th, Bristol 6th, even though Bristol are currently 3rd. But that's what I'm going to go for, just on how I think these teams are playing, how I think they'll continue to play as the season goes on. I think Newcastle will be, if they're finishing third, they're going to be playing whoever's bottom of the WSL, which at the moment is looking like it's probably going to be someone like Liverpool or West Ham, maybe Leicester at a push. My bet at the moment is probably West Ham. But we'll see how that goes. Obviously, they've got some managerial changes. But I think whoever that is, if they end up playing Newcastle, Forest, or Birmingham, the WSL2 team, with those three teams all putting a lot of money into their side, all sort of making statements that they're going to get into the WSL, that is a huge opportunity for them to make a real meal out of it, to make this game get on TV, make people watch it, make it a big deal, and make whoever that 12th place team in the WSL is scared that, actually, you're not just a team that we've thrashed a few times in the league below. You're a team that's been coming up, and the investments that you've made, you've got half your team beat us last season in the WSL. So, and then you've got all these youngsters coming through as well. And yeah, I just think if it's one of those three teams, especially, they've probably got the best chance of defeating whoever comes last in the WSL. But yeah, to go back to the main question, Charlton first, then it's quite close, but I'm going to go Birmingham second and Newcastle third.
Yeah, I think you're talking a lot of sense there, I'd say, Sam. I think if your prediction does come true, that would make the FA Cup very interesting. Did you say that West Ham have Newcastle in the FA Cup?
I think I did.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I said it maybe 10 minutes ago and I already forgotten. Yes, they've got Newcastle at home to West Ham in the FA Cup.
So that would make that a very interesting game in hindsight. So maybe we'll look at that as because I know West Ham are just such a funny team, aren't they? They beat Charlton 5-0, but I would say that I've just realised that Charlton conceded more goals in that game against West Ham when Sophie Whitehouse wasn't in goal than they have the entire league season. With Sophie Whitehouse in goal.
If that's not the case with Sophie Whitehouse's agent going in demanding a new contract, I don't know what is.
Honestly. And speaking of Sophie Whitehouse and Charlton, I obviously agree. I think Charlton are going to finish top. I just think that under Karen Hills, they've been doing so well. She's obviously a player who won the FA Cup, or a manager who won the FA Cup as a player with Charlton. I think a lot of the Charlton players talk about these Charlton principles of being hardworking people who don't stop, and you can really see that. And I think she might be the longest serving manager in the WSL2, or one of the longest serving managers now. I think so. I certainly agree with Charlton. I think next it's a bit tricky. I do think that Birmingham will have the resolve to finish second as well. I agree with you. It wouldn't surprise me if Newcastle or Crystal Palace or somebody slips in there as well. Amy Merricks and Hope Powell are a match made in heaven, really at that club, I think. And they've had players like you mentioned, Vitra Kisari and Lily Crossway, of course, have both had really good starts to the season. In third, I think it's hard to judge now because we've got a transfer window, and I have a feeling that Newcastle are more likely to spend more money than anyone in the league in that transfer window to make sure they go up. But I think this is going to be my first differentiator with you. I'm going to go Crystal Palace in third. I think they had a slow start to the season, and they were still finding their feet under Joe Potter, former Rangers manager, but they've really picked it up. They really are starting to perform a lot better. They're 5 wins on the bounce now. I think they're just showing that kind of resolve. They beat Leicester 3-0, who are in the League Cup. And the only thing Leicester needed to do was not lose 3-0 to qualify for the quarterfinals, and they beat Leicester 3-0. So, they're having some impressive performances. I'm going to be going to the game tomorrow when they play Arsenal, and obviously that's a huge challenge, but an exciting one. You've put yourself in that position, and they've got so many good players. Like Ashley Virden, I think, is a player whose standard is much higher than the WSL, to be honest. And I think Mi Kato is similar. And I think Abby Larkin's playing at a higher standard as well at the moment. Hayley Nolan's so consistent. They got Alison Swaby as well. I think the team is an exceptionally good side, and I think if things continue to come together the way they are, then I fancy them to maybe even pip second. And Kirsty Howard as well. I want to mention her. She's really found her groove as well. Recently scored some fabulous goals. I think Bristol City and Newcastle will have a good old scrap with them, but that's what I'm going to go with. I hope that Forest will stick with them too. But yeah, I think I'm going to go Charlton first, Birmingham second, Crystal Palace third, Newcastle fourth, and Bristol City fifth.
I think for Palace, sorry, just on them, a lot of the time when teams drop down from the WSL, they sort of, as you get in pretty much any league, the best players get picked to go back in. You know, you think of like Naomi Lazell is the one that springs to mind when Bristol City got relegated, and she was probably their best player, and Man City picked her up. Like that sort of stuff happens. And Palace, that hasn't happened to really. They've kept pretty much all of their players, even people like Annabelle Blanchard and Mikato, who I thought were two of their best players last season, are still there. I think something that stops me putting Palace higher personally is that I just think they don't ship loads of goals, but they ship a lot of goals they don't need to. There isn't data available publicly for it, but if you were to look at XG in the WSL2, I think Palace would be, like, their goals prevented would be negative, and I think it would be quite low. I think watching a lot this season, I think it's Shay Inez they've still got in goal. She's still making a lot of mistakes. I think if they bought a keeper in January, I think they would really solidify their defence, and I could see them moving up further up the table. But I think for a lot of teams, it depends what they do in January. It depends if they're going to recruit and who they recruit, and are the club willing to put the money in.
100%. And you've got a team like Newcastle who've just got a new manager in Tanya Oxtoby, and a lot of people have a lot of respect for her in the game. I think she's a brilliant appointment for them. So I think it'd be really interesting to see, because she'll want to be making that side her own, making her signings in January. It's her first window as manager, so that'll be really interesting to see how that develops. And if Newcastle back their women's team, which it does seem like they are, then they could make a real charge. And and obviously they had some great performances. Like they drew with Man City in the League Cup. Not many teams can say that they've done that this season against Manchester City. So I think it's really exciting.
Man City, well, even Man City rotating their squad, they've still got a pretty good squad. It's not like some other teams that you'd see around that. When they rotate their squad, you're then like, oh, but they've got all these players that you've never heard of, and it's like, I'm just looking at that squad for Man City that day. They had Bunny Shaw, Iman Bene, and Alba Fugino as a front three starting, a back four of Lazell, Gracie Pryor, Jade Rose, and Leah Wahabi. Like, this is still a WSL level side.
Yeah, it's all right for some, isn't it?
Newcastle
their second team.
I think Newcastle helps that obviously, like, the owners have been a bit outspoken in the men's side that they're sort of restricted by the not financial fair play, whatever it's called now. That they can't basically invest all of the money on the earth that they already have. But on the women's side, they don't have the same restrictions. So they are, they're not exactly going and buying Alessia Russo and Aitana Bonmati, but they are getting probably significantly better players in than if they didn't have the budget, and they're actually spending it. And that is what we like to see. Yeah,
for sure. I think as much as I am so happy with the way that they're spending and their women's team and backing it, we do have to mention the fact that, there's a pretty clear kind of sports washing issue around Newcastle and the Saudi regime. And obviously, there's people who know a lot more about it than well, I don't want to speak for you, Sam, but certainly for myself. That there's always a bit of something that, but then, you've got, it's so complicated because you've actually got owners that are investing. So even though every owner should be, we're clearly seeing that every owner isn't. So, I'm not sure I made a coherent point there.
It's the worst of two evils for people to make the decision of, do you want someone that is investing for the wrong reasons, or do you want someone that wants to but won't?
Yeah.
Or what normally happens is someone that could invest because they've got the money but won't.
Yeah. Chooses not to.
What we just need is a load more Michelle Kangs, really.
Yeah, yeah. And even Michelle Kang, there's a little bit there as well, but we won't get into that.
Yeah.
We love you, Michelle. Come on the podcast, open invite.
Michelle, you're better than Piff. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Should we move on?
Yeah, let's move on. So moving on to, I would love to say we're moving on to a happier subject, but we're absolutely not. Who's going to be relegated, Sam? Who's going to be in the battle for relegation? And then tell me which of those teams is going to get relegated.
Yeah, and we've picked a terrible time to record this podcast because tomorrow it's Sunderland hosting Ipswich, and they're currently the bottom two. If Ipswich win, they will be, and by the time you're listening to this, you'll know what the result is, but it could well be that there's only 2 points separating 9th and 12th, or it could be there's 7 points separating 9th and 12th. So we don't know at this moment in time, but I think potentially regardless of the result, I'm still going to back Ipswich to be the team that go down. I just think with they've scored the fewest goals in the league with just 8, and we've seen that you can do well, like Charlton have been doing, by not scoring that many goals but just keeping a good defence. But Ipswich have also conceded the most goals in the league, and that's not normally a great combination. Minus 20 goal difference already. Only Portsmouth are the closest team. They're on minus 11. So that sort of shows the gulf. Ipswich did well to come up last season. They scored quite a few goals. Jesse Gale that we mentioned earlier did really well for them last season, helped them get up. But they've not had the players available to them really, and it's tough coming into a league and tough coming into a professional league to maintain your place in it. So I'd like to see them do well because I like to see teams come up and stay rather than just yo-yoing up and down. I'd like to see them come up and do well, but unfortunately, I don't see it happening.
Yeah, that's fair, Sam. I agree with you as well. I have Ipswich down. I think that they can take heart from looking at Portsmouth last season. Portsmouth didn't have a win on the board until match week 14, and Ipswich already have a win at least. And then Portsmouth were in their first year of being a professional outfit at that time. So, there is scope to still have hope for sure. And I do think that one of the teams above them, a bit like Sunderland they do have a terrible run in them, a lot of these teams, So I wouldn't say that teams like Sheffield United, Durham, Sunderland are safe just yet. They've still got work to do, but I do think that Durham certainly have enough quality to steer clear and pick up a few more points. And obviously, Maiden Castle is just a terrible place for any away team to go. The wins there are just absolutely like nothing else. That's another derby that's going to restart the season in January, Sunderland versus Durham, but that'll be another big game for Sunderland. But yeah, I think Sunderland need to get back on the straight and narrow as well if they're going to stay out of trouble. But yeah, I have to agree. I do think Ipswich are going to go down. I'd like to see them put up a bit of a fight, and maybe Ed Sheeran, you got to get down there, start singing some more songs, help them out any way possible. And they've got, I think like you mentioned Jesse Gale, there's a lot of talent in that team. It just feels very early for a lot of them, I think, in their careers. I really like Natalia Negri in goal for them. I think she's a good goalkeeper, but I think, they've got a young side and maybe it's just come a bit too early, this step up for them together, and maybe not enough of those kind of experienced pros. Like, you look at a team like Bristol City who've brought in Vicky Losada and Sophie Ingle this term, and they're reaping the benefits of those kind of experienced players coming into the side. And Sophie Ingle's been brilliant, and those kind of players who've been there, done that at a higher level as well as at the WSL2 are worth their weight in gold, and I just don't think Ipswich have enough of them. So yeah, so there you go. We've gone through what we think about this season gone past and what we think is going to happen. Shall we finish it off with a game of Know Your Stat, Sam?
Oh, go on then.
So as it's just me and Sam, we're going to try something a little bit different. I'm going to ask Sam a question, a Know Your Stat question, and I'm going to set him a target of correct answers that he needs to get. Of course, it's going to be a WSL2 themed Know Your Stat. And here we go, Sam. You ready?
Hit me.
So I'm looking for any team to have more than 25 WSL2 wins since the WSL2 came to be in 2014. So any team across all of those seasons cumulatively to have 25 wins or more. Now there's 20 teams that have done that, so 20 correct answers. I want 12 from you, Sam.
12. Okay, I can do that.
And that's obviously without getting any wrong. So you can't get it. You can't get one wrong.
12 without getting any wrong. Okay.
Yeah. Or you know, we could try being a bit more lenient, but let's see how you do first. I think you
I
can
was going to give you lives.
Okay, I'll give you 3 lives, but it's 15. 3 lives
at 15. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if that might be harder. Okay.
Well, you talked yourself into it, Sam.
Yeah, I'm laying in my own bed. Bristol City.
Bristol City is correct.
Crystal Palace.
Crystal Palace is also correct.
Durham.
Durham is also correct.
I'm going to say surely they're correct.
Durham is actually the highest. They've had the most wins in WSL2 of any team since 2014. Over 100. The only team to have over 100 wins.
London City Lionesses.
London City Lioness is also correct.
There's a few teams that have like been in the league for a few years. I'm sort of wondering like how long were they in the league for? So I'm going to leave them for a bit longer. Birmingham.
Birmingham is also correct. That's 5 now.
Yeah. Let's go for Portsmouth.
Portsmouth is your first incorrect answer, I'm afraid.
Is it?
Yeah, I'm afraid so. So
had enough.
That's 1 life.
Southampton.
Southampton's correct.
The team that I always pair with Southampton.
We're getting Southampton fans back on side.
Southampton, I love you. The team that I always pair with Southampton, Sheffield United.
Sheffield United is also correct.
Sunderland.
Sunderland, another correct answer.
Now we're getting into some of the teams that will... Oh, no, Charlton. I haven't said Charlton.
Another correct answer.
I was about to start saying a sentence, and I looked at your shirt, and I was like, that's an answer. Now I'm going to get into some of the teams that I know have fluctuated a bit. I'm going to go for Lewis.
Correct. So you're up to 10 now. So just 5 more correct answers you need. You've got 2 lives to do it with.
Okay, can I have Liverpool?
Liverpool. They have 27 wins. So Liverpool's a correct answer. 11.
Leicester.
Leicester have 26 wins in the WSL2. He's surviving, folks. He's surviving.
Blackburn.
Blackburn's correct. I think you only have 2 more that you need now. And you've got 2 lives as well. So you can, you might not want to be risky, but you've got 2 lives to play with.
But I can take a risk if I need to. In the back of my head, but I don't think it's right. How many wins do you say it is?
25. And obviously, bearing in mind, there's only about 20 games every season. 22 games a season.
So in my head, I was thinking it was 20 this whole time. Which isn't a good start. It's not like I don't listen or anything.
But it served you well, though.
I was thinking it was 20. That was in my head. I was thinking, did Man United do 20 in that season? But if it's 25, then definitely not. Villa?
Aston Villa's another correct answer. They've got a lot. I think they must have finished 3rd a couple of seasons before they got promoted because they got a lot of wins.
I feel like there's going to be a WSL team in there.
It is difficult now. Spurs is your second life gone, I'm afraid. They must have been pretty close, but they are not on there, I'm afraid.
So this is either I get this right or I'm out.
Exactly. I mean, it's very tricky now because there are only 6 other correct answers. So you only have 6 to pick from. So it is very. I have made this hard for you, but
yeah, thanks.
Do you want any? But you're obviously up to the challenge, though.
I've got one in my mind. I'm going to go for Reading.
Reading.
I think they might have been in the Championship long enough before they went.
Reading. It's a correct answer. Well done, Sam.
Yeah.
You take victory. It was. See, I made it too easy. Really. There you go. You just
Barely. I think that was the sweet spot.
You're just making it a bit of Hollywood there at the end, weren't you? You had Reading in your back pocket the whole time, but very well done, Sam. What were the other ones you were kind of thinking of, or you had in your mind?
The other ones, I feel like Watford were in the mix.
Watford were very close, but they weren't a correct answer.
And then, to be honest, I was a bit stuck. I was. The other option was to go for teams that I know haven't been in the league that long, but I'm wondering, like, did they used to be in the league? Because I can't remember who was in the WSL2 or the Championship how many years ago. Just thinking like Forest and Newcastle.
There was one more WSL team, current WSL team in there.
West Ham?
No, not West Ham.
Who didn't I say? I didn't say Brighton.
Not Brighton.
I didn't say...
Other side of Merseyside?
Other side of Merseyside, Everton.
Yeah, Everton.
Sorry, that really confused me. I was like, Brighton, the other side of Merseyside.
Yeah,
Scotland.
Sorry, yeah. And then the remaining ones were always going to be a bit... I thought you might have got just because of how iconic they are. Donny Rovers Bells would be the correct answer. Doncaster Rovers Bells.
Yeah.
Millwall Lioness is also correct. London Bees also correct. And then everyone's favourite, Yeovil Town, the final correct answer. So, well done, Sam. Very impressive to get that. That was not easy.
Millwall came to mind, but I didn't know if it would count because LCL was sort of like a branch off them, weren't they? So I didn't know if they'd count as the same club or not.
Separately, they both
try and get there separate.
Yeah, separately they both got 25 wins, at least 25 wins each. I think London City actually have 61 or something like that, so a lot of wins for them. But Sam, well done, congratulations. That's kind of, is that your first Know Your Stat win? Technically, like proper win. I know you've won a round before, but that. Not that you're up against someone, but does that count?
I thought I won in the fantasy one. Did I not win there?
Maybe you did. To be honest, I once I lose, I don't care who wins.
Once I lose, I don't care.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, Tom, I've never won when you have lost. When you haven't lost.
Yes, exactly. So very well done there, Sam. That was some great.
Do you want to do your Know Your Stat round now?
Oh, have you made me one?
Yeah.
Oh,
you asked me to, so I did.
Oh, I actually didn't. I don't remember asking, but I'll definitely. Why not?
Well, regardless, I've done it. So you've got yours is a bit of a shorter list. So there's only 13 people on this list. I'll give you 2 lives. So you've got 15 in total. I'd like you to name for me, according to Soccerdonna, any player that's currently playing for a WSL2 side that is worth at least €50,000.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, you thought you were closing the pod early.
No, I thought I was ready to sign out. I don't actually have a pen and paper, but I don't really need it for this one.
I'll tell you what, if you repeat it, I'll just tell you.
Okay,
I'll give you the
appreciate that. Thank you. I'm going to go Ashley Veerden first.
Ashley Veerden is an incorrect answer.
Not even worth £50,000.
She is apparently worth 35.
Oh my god! Somebody go out and buy that one. Wow. Okay, that's not a good start.
That's not a good start.
Above £50,000.
50 or more.
50 or more.
I tell you, all of these players have played at least twice this season.
Okay. I'm not great with my values, I've got to say.
Yeah, I don't think it's as, because obviously Soccerdonna is like the women's version of, like, is the branch from Transfer March that makes Soccerdonna. I don't think it's quite as good. I don't think it's quite as precise. There's not as much data goes into it. But
that is more than fair. Okay.
Would you like a clue?
Yeah, that would be helpful.
I think every player on the list either plays for Bristol, Palace, Forest, Newcastle, or Birmingham.
Okay, all right. That is helpful. Can I go Jordan Nobbs?
You can. She's 7th.
Okay, thank God.
75.
All right. Okay, maybe I can get some kind of rhythm going now.
There's six that are worth more than her, although I think off the top of my head, 2 of them have played in the WSL.
Okay. Can I go Annabelle Blanchard?
You can. She is joint 7th with Jordan Nobbs. 75,000.
Okay. Can we go Emily Syme?
You can't go Emily Syme. She is... Where is she on the list? I might have to click this bit out while I try and find her on the list.
Oh no. That bad.
I don't know if I've gone past her, but I'm on page 4 now.
Oh gosh.
Emily Syme, 15k allegedly.
Wow. Somebody buy her. Am I out now?
No, you've used your 2 lives, so if you...
Oh, okay.
That's it. You haven't got another life, so you have to get all of them right now.
How many do I need to get right?
11. Might be a bit harder than mine. I thought mine was hard.
I just don't know what makes somebody valuable, like in how they assess it. Because I was trying to think, maybe it's like, because I don't know if English players are more valuable or if they're younger or.
There's only 3 English players on the list, and you've got 2 of them.
Okay. All right, so it's not necessarily that. What about? Could I ask whether it's like are defenders and goalkeepers less valuable than strikers and midfielders, or?
There is 1 goalkeeper on the list. So it just categorises them into the 4: goalkeeper, defence, midfield, striker. 1 goalkeeper, 2 defenders, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 midfielders, and then 4 strikers.
Okay. Could I go Mikato?
So 5 strikers. You can go Mikato. She's second at 125,000.
Well, they signed her for enough, so I was hoping that she wouldn't be like 5k. Abby Larkin.
Abby Larkin. It's not a correct answer, unfortunately.
Damn. I think I would just been so annoyed if she was a correct answer. I hadn't said her.
Abby Larkin is 30.
I was going to go Sophie Whitehouse, but I kind of also
30,000, not 30 years old.
Yeah, I thought it might be Adriana Franch that might be the goalkeeper on there over.
Sophie Whitehouse, I'll need to go through the list to find her, but Adriana Franch is 40,000. So she's not on there either.
Okay,
the goalkeeper was Anna Tamanen from Newcastle.
Okay, yeah.
She's only played 2 games, so that's a tough one to get. I'll go from 13th up to 1st. So at 50k, you had Sophie Ingle and Alison Swaby.
Oh my God, I thought Sophie Ingle would be 2.
And I was going to
say Alison Swaby as well. Damn.
At 60k, you had Deanne Rose. 75, you had Tamanen, Blanchard and Nobbs. At 80k, you had Malgorzata Grek and Una Sevenius from Newcastle. 85 grand, you had Bacheba Louis from Birmingham. At 90 grand, you had So Young Ji. You got Mikato in second, and then Nahikari Garcia at Notts Forest is number 1. Although, as a striker, she's got a whole 2 goals in her 9 appearances and has been subbed off 7 times. So I'm not sure why she's still worth 150,000 according to Transfermarkt, but
yeah,
there we go.
Fair play.
Yeah.
I did think of a few of them, but yeah. But it's interesting. It's interesting to know how these players are valued. I'll definitely have a look at that list as well. Educate myself.
Yeah, I remember trying to do a list like this for one of like the quite early Know Your Stat rounds we did for the WSL, and I looked at it and it was dreadful. It was like they're not going to get these because they're so like it's not necessarily the best players are at the top.
Yeah.
And then they redid it a few months ago, and I did a Know Your Stat round on it, and it was I think you did pretty not you specifically, but the group did pretty well.
Yeah.
And yeah, they seem to refining it, and I don't think last time I looked, I don't think they had it for the WSL2. So
okay, yeah, that's cool.
That's cool. I have noticed actually, I didn't mention this actually earlier, but just as an extra feature for everyone, you were asking earlier the very first thing you asked about the WSL2 about where it's going. When I remember last season trying to find out stuff about the WSL2 for another project I was doing, and I could barely find anything out. Like the only way that I found stuff out basically was through a service that you have to pay for, and that I managed to get through the project. But other than that, like for the average fan, you couldn't find anything. Now, if you go on FOTMob or if you go on, I think SofaScore's the same, or if you go on Soccer Donner, there's a lot more data for the
Yeah.
WSL2 now, and there's a lot more ways that you can find out about it. And obviously with the Panini thing and things like that. So I think getting that reach is helping a bit. And, you know, you can go and, if you're a Portsmouth fan, you can go and follow the women's team on FOTMob now and get the notifications when they play and stuff like that. So yeah, sorry, that was another thing I forgot to add.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Well, I've noticed that too, which is just fantastic to see as well. Because, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of fans who follow this league, and you know they deserve that, to have this kind of that level of scrutiny and level of access to data as every other fan. So fantastic, Sam. Well, thank you so much for joining me on your own pod. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, decoding the WSL2. So thank you, listener, for tuning in to Decoding the WSL2. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You can also follow at Decoding the WSL on Instagram, and also check out the Decoding the WSL YouTube channel. Thanks again for listening, and we'll speak to you in the next one.